and welcome back to Bedtime Stories with Mommy J. And we're continuing with The Day My Butt Went Psycho, based on a true story by Andy Griffiths. And we are actually on chapter 2B. And just to recall that he was being chased by the gang of butts. Zach rocketed through the pipe and shot out into a large open area into which a number of other drains emptied. He crashed into a small card table surrounded by butts. The table collapsed underneath him and the butts went flying. But before Zach could get up, the butts were all around him, poking him with their soft, frog-like fingers. Well, said a well-scrubbed butt who was wearing a cardboard party hat in the shape of a crown. If it isn't a butt catcher. How nice of him to drop in. Isn't it, Maurice? Maurice, with a larger butt standing beside him, nodded. Very nice, Prince, he said in a deep voice. Very, very nice indeed. The rest of the butts elbowed one another and snickered. The butt called Prince jumped up onto Zach's chest. Well, he said, to what do we owe this unexpected pleasure, butt catcher? The smell of the prince's breath almost knocked Zach out, despite the clothespin on his nose. I'm not a butt catcher, said Zach. Do you take me for a fool? Said the prince. No, said Zach. Then why do you insult me? Said the prince. Insult you? Said Zach. What do you mean? Well, you're wearing a butt catcher's utility belt, said the prince, reaching forward, unclipping the belt and dangling it in front of Zach's face. I assume you're not delivering pizzas. The other butts slapped their thighs and winked at one another in appreciation of their leader's joke. That's not my belt, said Zach. Look, said the prince. I like to believe you. I really would, wouldn't I, Maurice? That's right, said Maurice. He would. He really would. He really and truly. That will do, Maurice, said the prince. Sorry, sir, said Maurice. As I was saying, said the prince, I would like to believe you, but it's more than my job's worth, you see. As leader of butt intelligence, it's my job to capture and interrogate any humans engaged in anti-butt activities. Now, put yourself in my shoes. A human wearing a butt catcher's utility belt enters the room and tells us that he's not a butt catcher. What would you do? Let him go, suggested Zach. No, said the prince. I hope you might be a little more clever than that. I would interrogate him, find out who he's working for and how many more of them there are. I'd probably even have to torture him unless he wanted to save time and tell me the truth straight away. As the prince spoke, the gang of butts closed in even more tightly around Zach. I'm telling you, said Zach, I'm not a butt catcher and I don't work for anyone. But the prince ignored him. Maurice, he said. Maurice stepped forward, snapping his feet to attention. Yes, sir. Match, please, said the prince. Yes, sir, said Maurice, producing a box of matches. He opened the box and passed the match to the prince. Know what this is? Said the prince, waving it in front of Zach's face. The gang of butts all took a few steps back. Yes, said Zach, beginning to tremble. A match. Good, said the prince. At last we're getting somewhere. Now tell me, who are you working for? Nobody, said Zach. You're making a mistake. I'm not working for anybody. I'm a civilian. The prince nodded. For a moment, Zach thought it was because he understood. But then Prince gestured to Maurice to come closer. Maurice stepped forward with the matchbox held out in his hand. I was hoping to avoid this, said the prince in a low voice. But unless you answer my questions truthfully, you leave me no choice. I am telling you the truth, said Zach, feeling the sweat form on the back of his neck. The prince was clearly psycho, he thought, perhaps even more psycho than his own butt. The prince sighed and struck the match against the box. It flared. The butts all leaned forward as close as they dared, not wanting to miss a single moment of action. Zach knew what was coming. Butts and matches were a bad combination. He tried to get away, but Maurice put his foot on his chest. Zach was trapped. The prince took a deep breath, brought the match in front of his mouth, and held out his finger. Maurice, pull my finger, he said. Zach closed his eyes. Suddenly he heard a splash. Stop right there, said a voice. Move away from him and face the wall. That goes for all of you. Zach looked up. There, standing at the end of the drain he slid through, was a girl wearing army camouflage pants and a green jersey. Her hair was a tangled mess. She looked like she's been living rough. She was heavily armed, a butt gun on each hip, a knife strapped to one of her black combat boots, and a huge butt blaster hanging off her shoulder. She was holding on to it with both hands, standing absolutely still, with the air of somebody who expected to be obeyed. She was scowling, looking directly at the prince, who hadn't moved. "Well, what are you waiting for?" she said, jumping down from the lip of the pipe and landing cat-like on a metal grate without losing either her balance or her pose. The butts all scuttled to the edge of the drain, all except for Prince and Maurice. I want you guys to take a look at my little guy right there. Special guest. He loves bedtime stories. "Dear me," said the prince. "Such rudeness, have you ever heard anything like it, Maurice?" "No, sir," said Maurice gravely. "I don't believe I have." "You, my dear," said the prince, turning to the girl, "need to learn some manners." "And you need to move to that wall," she said, taking a menacing step toward him, "or I will shoot." "I will do as you ask," said the prince, "but first you must say please." The only response from the girl was a volleyball of gunfire. Thumbtacks shot out of her gun and embedded themselves in a straight line along the tabletop, stopping only a few inches from Zach's leg. Maurice screamed. "I used thumbtacks that time," said the girl. "Next time it will be staples." "Okay, all right," said the prince. "Temper, temper." Zach reached up and snatched the utility belt from the prince's hand. The prince glanced at the girl, looking slightly worried. "We weren't going to hurt him," he said, looking back at Zach. "Honestly, we were just having a bit of fun, weren't we, Maurice?" Suddenly, the air was full of staples. The girls sprayed the metal grate in front of the prince and Maurice. They shielded themselves as best as they could with their little froggy arms, but many of the staples rebounded and stuck into them. They responded by jumping around as they were standing on a hot plate. "Hey," said the prince, "that hurts." "Just shut up and move," said the girl. "I won't tell you again. Next time it will be nails. Rusty ones." Something about her tone, combined with the threat of rusty nails, was serious enough to get through to Prince and Maurice. They ran to join the other butts and the far side of the drain. The girl walked toward Zach, staring angrily into his eyes. Zach was sweating. She was almost more frightening than the butts. "Are you hurt?" said the girl. "No," said Zach. "You came just in time." "I heard the cluster butt," she said. "I figured they must have been after somebody." "What were you doing out after the butt siren had been sounded anyway?" "Butt siren?" said Zach. "I didn't hear a butt siren." "You must be deaf as well as dumb," she said. "What?" Zach was beginning to think that Prince was right. The girl was rude. "Anyone who walks around the streets in the middle of a butt curfew unarmed is asking for trouble," she said. "And then I have to waste my time saving them." "I wasn't unarmed," said Zach, showing her the utility belt. "I was wearing this." "That's a cute little toy," the girl said, smiling. "Did you get it for Christmas?" "No," said Zach. "A butt catcher gave it to me." The girl sighed. "Stupid street cleaners," she said. "They should leave it to the professionals." "He is a professional," said Zach. And we're going to stop right there with chapter 2B. Again, these are like long chapters, but that's all right. We are going to get through it. It is getting more intense with the butts. So I hope you guys have a beautiful and wonderful evening. Make sure you brush your teeth and say your prayers. I love you much. Hugs and kisses. Sweet dreams. Mwah!